You may find it interesting how the mind begins to accept what it always knew to be true. Because as you're hearing these words now, part of you, perhaps the part that's been waiting to wake up, can begin to realize that focusing on combining all these ideas, beliefs and concepts and installing them unconsciously really just means remembering who you've always been, doesn't it? Because once upon a time, there was someone who didn't even realize how attractive they were. Maybe you've known someone like that. They walked through the world with this natural magnetism, not forced, not faked, just there. They smiled without knowing it made hearts race. They spoke without trying to impress, and yet they left deep impressions, because authenticity attracts. And then one day, that person looked in the mirror and saw what others had seen all along, not just a reflection, but confirmation. And in that moment, everything shifted, not because they became someone else, because they stopped pretending they weren't enough already. Because sometimes, the only thing between innocence and self-awareness is permission. So what happens when someone gives themselves permission to see beauty as power and authenticity as their superpower? They walk differently. They own their presence. They learn the secret. The energy is magnetic. An energy that you project is the energy you attract. And as you're thinking about that now, you might wonder what it feels like to truly know that you're enough. That your worth isn't earned, it's remembered. When you start to believe that, really believe it, your unconscious mind begins reorganizing everything. Because the mind loves patterns. And the more empowering the pattern, the more easily it sticks. Now I don't know if you ever met someone who has that calm certainty about them, like they don't need approval, because they've already approved of themselves. But when you do, you can't help but feel it. Their confidence is a permission slip for everyone else to show up as themselves. That's what true attraction is. It's contagious authenticity. And it begins when your inner voice starts saying things like, I'm valuable for who I am, not just how I look. I can learn to grow from anything. I don't need permission to succeed. And maybe that voice is already speaking to you now, because you're beginning to remember that every experience is feedback, every emotion is a message, every relationship is a mirror, and every belief is a seed. And what happens when you plant empowering beliefs into that rich soil of your unconscious? You grow, not by effort, but by design. Because when confidence becomes your baseline, and certainty becomes your compass, you naturally attract people, experiences, and opportunities that reflect your new identity back to you. You're now the kind of person who effortlessly holds eye contact, because you enjoy being seen. Speak slowly and clearly because you're used to people listening. Smiles with certainty because you like what you see in yourself. Takes action boldly because growth is more important than perfection. Seeks feedback eagerly because failure is just data. And every time you do that, every moment of boldness, you're reinforcing a deeper truth, that charisma is not a gift, it's a choice, a learned behaviour, a practiced state of mind. And this is the part where you realise your unconscious, it already knows exactly how to install and integrate these new operating beliefs. Because these are not just concepts, these are your default settings now. You may not even notice the shift immediately, until one day someone looks at you and says, you've changed, but I don't know how. And you'll smile, because you'll know. Because when people mirror your confidence, when they're drawn to your energy, when your presence feels like a gift, you'll remember this moment where it all began, where your mind says yes, where your unconscious said, I am ready to believe differently now. And from this moment forward, everything becomes easier, every interaction becomes deeper, every challenge becomes feedback, every belief becomes fuel, every day becomes a playground for possibility. You're now the person who walks into a room and changes the temperature, because you know you're always enough. Every challenge contains its own solution. Authenticity is your magnetism. Confidence is your natural state. And life always responds to the energy that you bring to it. And that brings us back to the beginning. Focusing on combining all these ideas, beliefs and concepts and installing them unconsciously as a new belief system, your new operating system, your true self activated now.